G'day. Welcome to the Essential Oil Science Series, video number 8, where I'll be checking in with you guys. I've done 7 videos so far. I've always wanted this endeavor to be interactive, so I'll be eliciting some feedback from you guys. How's this going so far, and where would you like it to go in the future? But first, a little bit of chemistry. We'll go over some previous experiments and actually review all of our previous experiments, and then I'll elicit some feedback. We're coming at you from beautiful Bali. We've been dodging the earthquakes. We're doing fine. But here I'm reminded of the beauty and amazing properties of plants. I even tried one the other day. A farmer suggested to me, you eat something sour, you taste this little fruit, little red fruit, and then that sour thing, you eat it again and it's not sour anymore. It's amazing. It's a miracle fruit. I ate some god fruit as well. It's amazing stuff. Plants are amazing. So, speaking of trying things and then doing some research later, let's talk about wintergreen. I've been suggesting that you try it out, and I want to talk a little bit more about its toxicity and some of its amazing properties. I said in a couple of videos ago that the main component in wintergreen is this guy here, methyl salicylate, and that its therapeutic properties or a lot of its helpful properties come from the fact that it turns into this stuff here, salicylic acid, pretty quickly. And this is the stuff that aspirin turns into pretty quickly as well once it's taken into the body. Just a couple of notes on toxicity. Of all the salicylates around, it seems from a couple of papers I've read that this is the most toxic version, but only slightly. So you can take, the human body, adult body, can take up to a quarter of one of these 15 ml bottles and deal with it quite well. It has a system for dealing with this stuff, for metabolizing it, turning it into this and then turning it into the other metabolites that it turns it into. So it can deal with about a quarter of a bottle of this stuff beautifully. Any more than that, and then you overload the system, and then you can start running into trouble. Death has occurred in adults with as little as 1.5 of these bottles, but for most of us it would take a couple of bottles to knock us off. So low levels is fine. So what happens when you take this stuff in internally? Well, some of it gets absorbed pretty quickly through the stomach. Most of it is going to get absorbed into the blood in the small intestines here. Once it's in the blood, it's going to run up here into the liver, and once it's in the liver, whatever hasn't already been turned into salicylic acid here in the small intestine will be turned into salicylic acid here in the liver. So after an hour and a half of ingesting this stuff, only 20% of this remains. Most of it's going to be this stuff. So I have had, over the last couple of weeks, 6 different experiences with the use of wintergreen oil internally, and they all kind of looked like this. 3 of those experiences were the ones that I presented in last week's video, and that was with a child where 1 drop of wintergreen was used. The other 3 experiences were with myself, experiencing blurry vision and pressure behind the eyes, intense pressure. I had to go to a doTERRA event, so I needed to fix this. So 3 drops of wintergreen, and half an hour later I was up and running around and experiencing normal levels of comfort. Another one was being woken by my wife in the middle of the night, experiencing tremendous discomfort in the gut area, and again 3 drops, and after half an hour was able to sleep again. So yeah, after about half an hour you get significant effects, and the effect wears off after about 5 hours. So that just gives you an idea of of how much salicylic acid is present in the blood after ingestion. So significant amounts after half an hour and not much after about 5 hours. Alright, so let's quickly review what we've learnt so far before I elicit some feedback from you. So just quickly, we've gone through three ways of applying oils: topical, aromatic and internal. And the first thing we learnt was that carrier oils slow down the release of the oil, both into the blood and into the atmosphere. That within 30 seconds you can get significant amounts of oil from the skin into the blood, and that within 2 minutes you can seem to be able to get oil from the bottom of the foot up into the brain. And I'm putting a little question mark there because I still need to run a few more experiments on this to be sure, but I think that's the case. Aromatic use, first thing we learnt was that some of it can get into the brain via the olfactory nerve, so it can go through this back door here. The other thing we learnt was that this is a very efficient way of getting oils straight into the bloodstream. So it's slow, but it's very efficient. Internal use, what we learn is that within 30 minutes you're seeing significant amounts of that oil in the bloodstream and doing its thing. And the other thing we learnt was that stuff is going to get metabolized. You know, within there's all these enzymes attacking and working on these oils within the gut and then again within the liver. Okay, so we've also learned a few other things like what terpenoids are, sesquiterpenes, monoterpenes, the blood-brain barrier. We've gone over the chemistry wheel. There's a bunch of other things we've learnt as we've gone along. Okay, so that's a quick review of what we have done. Let's look now at where to go from here. Let me bring myself down here. Where to go from here? It's time for some feedback. So, let's just jam up the live oils and the oils with Leone-Dawson. Let's just jam up that page with comments just for this week, please, because I'd love to get your feedback on things like this. How's the pace of these videos? What's the aesthetic like for you? Do you have any suggestions in terms of color use and things like that? How far do you make it through the videos? If it's a short time, you haven't even made it this far, so you're never going to answer that question. But tell me, what's an ideal length for these videos? How's the use of humor or lack of humor? My use of voice? And anything else you can think of. Just give me some feedback. And I think most importantly for me at this point is tell me some topics you would like to hear about. What are some science questions that you have? All right, thanks so much. Have a great week.